Hi, I'm Sean Goggins, and I'm happy to be here today to talk with you about using open source software metrics for steering community progress. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Missouri, one of the co-founders of the Chaos Project, creator and maintainer of Augur, one of the leading tools for open source software metric capture and understanding. And I've also in a past life created a data science and analytics master's program here at the University of Missouri and been part of open source software in one capacity or another for over 20 years. So what are metrics? Chaos has 89 metrics that I put into 9 different categories. And I think there are 4 key groups that we want to start with. Code changes or commits, you're probably already looking at that. Change requests, pull requests, contributions of code from outside your project. Issues, those are the bugs that people file with you or let you know that something's broken, or sometimes features that people ask you to develop. And new contributors. If you want to sustain an open source project over a long period of time, understanding how to attract and retain new contributors is important. And so these metrics are part of what I'd call the starting set. Now, one size doesn't fit all. The projects that you're interested in are not necessarily the metrics that other projects are interested in. And so this radar chart shows us the volume of activity on 3 categories of open source projects: corporatized open source, government open source, and scientific open source. And you can see that scientific open source is different. It has less activity in many areas compared with corporatized open source. It's more similar in terms of activity levels to government open source. I shared this with you so that you have a clear understanding that not all open source projects are the same, and your project is distinct. Now, we want to use metrics to help us identify our goals and then track progress towards those goals, and then periodically evaluate that progress. Now, in our work here at the Open Source Sustainability Lab, we've had 7 projects that we've worked with so far, and I can group these projects into what their different current goals are. And these archetypes reflect where the projects that we've worked with are, and I'm not naming them, but there are 7 in 3 different archetypes. And you want to think about your goals where you are right now. Chances are a year or 2 from now, you'll have different goals and you may fall or slip into a different archetype. None of these are better or worse than the other. They are focused on the research and the academic piece, trying to build up a community or add people. And sometimes it's trying to ensure that the technical operations and merging and management of your project is effective and maintains its stability over time. If you want to think about the metrics for an open source project, start with the tools that are available to you on the platforms that you may use, GitHub and GitLab being the most common. On GitHub, there are dashboards available at these links in the presentation here, where you can see the traffic, who's coming to download your project, what are they looking at. And you can also see the commit activity on those projects, on that project over time. Once you have a basic understanding of what your project looks like and what the activity on your project looks like, you may decide to go and compare it with other projects on GitHub, and that's great. If you want to go beyond the basics, though, and start to truly triangulate your project with others, it's important to keep in mind that research and scientific software projects do have different characteristics than a corporatized open source projects. And so one thing that we did is we looked at all of the papers in the Journal of Open Source Software from its beginning until now, and we tracked those metrics over time, and then we compared them with a core infrastructure project in Linux Foundation called CNCF. And the x-axis here reflects the level of maturity indicated by the metrics. And you can see that the JOS projects do tend to gravitate towards this lower level of maturity. Now, that's not terribly surprising because scientific and research open source generally has a lot less activity, a lot less management, and a lot fewer people involved in it. And so maturity isn't maturity as in growing up. Maturity is maturity as in readiness to take on a very large user base. Scientific software projects oftentimes never get to this very large user base. And so the lower level of maturity doesn't mean that it's a child. It just means that the maturity level that your project is at is where it should be at for the amount of people that you have to support at a given point in time. Now, once you've gotten to the point where you understand your own project and you've looked at the GitHub or other platform statistics and metrics for that project, you want to try to understand how to use those metrics in a different way. Or you may be interested in more advanced understandings so that you can connect your metrics to the goals and perform more active comparisons with other projects. And so that's where tools like the ones that you can see at joss.augurlabs.io using the Augur and 8-knot technology stack that's part of the Chaos project give you access to a larger portion of those 89 Chaos metrics. And you can drill in on which project metrics help you fulfill your goal. Going forward, I would suggest that the first step be to start with the available platform metrics. Beware of using these metrics to measure individuals. So I discourage folks from taking a look at metrics and saying, these people are not contributing enough, or I want to see a certain number of lines of code. When we do that, we tend to motivate people who are our software engineers to do things to just sort of tweak the metrics, right? Then you want to understand your impact story. How are you describing the importance of the software in your research to the funders that you're speaking to? And so putting that story together using some of the very basic metrics on those platforms that I mentioned, GitHub and GitLab, is a great place to start. Once you've gotten sort of beyond that basic level, the next steps might be to explore research software engineering as a profession. There's a research software engineering conference every year. This year it's in the UK. And this helps to professionalize or helps you think about professionalizing some of the activity around your project. And then you also want to try to consider systematic metric collection and analysis using tools like Augur and 8-knot. If your project is running for 3, 5, 8 years, you're not going to have understanding of that full trajectory and how your project has evolved from the tools available on a platform. The only way that you can get that is by using some of these more advanced tools. And also, finally, talk with metrics practitioners and research folks, people on the Chaos projects, people in the Open Source Software Sustainability Lab, to try to get a clear understanding of how others are using metrics to advance their projects and what the next steps might be for you to apply metrics to help make your open source software project in research and science more sustainable, more stable, and more fun for you. Thank you.